wait for a minute or so just to get myself centered and to give people a chance to come on. It's been a while since I've live streamed, and it takes a little time for people to get notifications, which is fine. There will be a replay as well. So actually this is a really good time for me and probably all of us to just connect. And the simple, powerful way that you do that is just helps to close your eyes, to bring your attention to your body, to allow yourself to feel the surface of the chair pushing up against you, to become aware of your breathing. I can feel my heart beating a little bit fast. See how much you can become aware of what's happening inside of you. So just be quick. And also outside of you. How do your feet feel? How do the backs of your legs feel? How does your chest feel? What kind of energy is flowing in you? The ambient air on your arms, on your face, the sounds that you hear in the background and in the foreground. And just let's breathe and take a little bit deeper. And I do have a lot that I want to share. I'm not going to be able to do it all in one live stream. But there's a lot of space here for whatever is meant to flow through. And what I'd like to start with next, is just for each of us to ask ourselves the question, where is a deeper part of me? Where is the deeper part of me that is way beyond, way more infinite, eternal, way beyond anything that's happening in the world? There is a part of you. That's way beyond any of this. Which means that in a certain sense, everything that's happening in your life and in the world is happening within you. Kind of like a dream where we're inside the dream, our experience is inside the dream, but actually the dream is inside of us. I can't claim to fully understand it, but it's getting more and more obvious to me that this is true. But keeping it simple, you can just ask yourself, or you could say to yourself, there is a part of me that is beyond all of this, that is untouchable, inviolable, connected, infinitely deep, eternal, peaceful, calm. And where is that part of me? And I have to tell you that when I asked myself that question, the first night after all of this, when I could not sleep, immediately, I didn't have a logical answer in my brain. It was a feeling. I fell asleep. And every time I woke up, that part of me, I fell asleep. And I want to say that before I go into any more about what's happening in Israel and what's happening in the world and what the prophets say are going to happen and what they say we can do about it, I just want to invite everybody to be more and more in touch with that part, because there is no question in my mind that at the end of the day, that huge cosmic being of us, which is connected to the very essence of God, has got to come through all of the levels of concealment and the fears and the traumas and the, left linear thinking and the psyoping and whatever, and it's got to express itself in all aspects of our being. And that's like a birth, right? Where something large squeezes out through something small by a process. And in that process, we can be either taken over by fear or screaming. And no, that happens a lot when mothers have children, but not if you're prepared, not if you know how to handle it. And then it can be an amazing, exalted experience that happens much quicker, much easier, much more helpfully. Anyway, let's leave it at that. Next, I want to say I've been slow. I've been slow to come online. It's taken me several days, and in general, we've been traveling. We were traveling for several weeks before the holidays in America, and before that, something happened that put me off my game, a tragedy to a friend's, whatever. And I am a trauma-based person. I'm an easily trauma-triggered person, which is one of the reasons why I care so much and put in so much effort to find that deeper, to find that solution, because we are promised by God in the Torah, and I think everyone knows this in their soul, when they're not triggered to trauma and fear. When we're triggered to trauma and fear, it takes us out of ourselves. That's what it does. That's why there's so much fear being directed at us, because the world is created, zeh u'matzeh, there are two sides spiritually. That's the way God made it. It's like a state of spiritual war. Sometimes that comes out in personal wars, physical wars, relationship wars. Anyway, we have to understand that it's not the real us. It's the trauma, it's the snake voice, it's the fear, and the trigger's always an invitation to go deeper and find something deeper, connect deeper. So it's not like a back and forth. It's like a progressively, like up, 2 steps forward or a leap forward and a step backwards. And this is also implicit in the Torah. So being a fear-based, trauma-based person, or I don't want to say based, but I'm prone to fear and trauma when I'm triggered, when something happens that, I've been looking forward to Geula and trying to be active on behalf of that. If you're not sure what that is, this is the Messianic era. This is the process of the Messianic redemption. This is the times that were foreseen by prophets and sages long ago. And it can go a lot of different ways. So it takes me a while, and it took me a while to come out of that reaction into a deeper place so that I can speak from within that real human experience, but from a deeper, more connected place. Again, that deeper part of us, that inviolable, infinite God part of us, has to come through all of the human, and the light has to fill all of the pockets of darkness. And that's just how it's designed to work. So that's actually happening for a lot of people in Israel and maybe around the world, maybe particularly Jews around the world, or those who are, connected to our people and our mission. Ultimately, everybody will be, but there's been I don't feel it right now, but there's been a sense of extremely heavy darkness, eeriness all over the country. Like what happened was Holocaust level, just not the numbers, but this. And nobody, this has been our safe haven. Yes, it hasn't been all that safe some of the time, but miracles upon miracles upon miracles every single day have allowed this place to exist and grow and thrive despite everything's being thrown at us and it. And there's so much all the time, deeper than any of us realized. So we are all going through this process, and I want to read you something from that's written by a neighbor of mine, a French artist, mystic from a lineage of Kabbalists. He's a kind of a seer, in my opinion. And just like quickly to read a few words. The moment, he said, faith in the trying hours of terror is the soul of the believer. His name is Yoel Torjman. The moment a believer is tested in the very essence of his life, for it's in that moment that the consciousness of his creator becomes heightened and he recognizes that he is in God's hand alone. The awareness causes him to rise very high in his level of faith, which pulls down. So we rise up to faith. We leave our small-mindedness, at least in part, and that pulls down a flow of the Creator's holiness actually into our own human life force. And this extends a flow into our being of great light, of divine providence and faith, where we actually see God's hand, where we're led by God's hand. I'll just read another few lines here. Therefore, it's necessary to distract oneself from what people talk about in times of trouble, the horror stories about terrorists and war, because it causes one to forget the truth. And this forgetfulness, this distraction into the fear, into the horror, into the terror, into the drama, into the hardened sides, this forgetfulness is the real danger. I just added those few words. He said it causes one to forget the truth, and this forgetfulness is the real danger. So I want to stop here and say, don't watch videos. Don't watch horrible videos. They will blemish your soul, and you may never get out of it. It's very dangerous. There is a reason why the videos are being shown, and we have to guard our minds. We have to guard our eyes, because we are spiritual warriors, and that's what we're here for. Every soul who is down in the planet at this time, which I understand is every soul that ever lived, that has been born into this generation. Some already did their mission and left, and the rest of us are here. All the souls, the core soul of Adam, splintered off into more and more souls in every generation, pieces of souls that can do more specific, precise parts of their mission, more elevations. All of us are here now for the final rectifications, the final, to finish the job finally. And when is that going to be? Really fast and really easy and really miraculous? When we recognize what's happening, and when we can unite with people who are decent-minded, who maybe, all of us are mixed up and confused and overwhelmed and flawed and opinionated and, probably many ways. That's part of the human experience. But when we can look beyond that to that deeper part and start to ascertain truth, and just by looking for and praying for truth, we will receive help from above in seeing truth and discerning truth. The ultimate tool of these spiritual forces that I will call the enemy, the Samach Mem, the snake, the ultimate tool is deception and confusion. To make people not see what's in front of their face, to allow people to be manipulated, brainwashed, confused, to think that the friend is the enemy and the enemy is the friend. By the way, if you have questions about any of this, put them in the chat and I'll try to answer what I can. Okay, so when we adhere, last paragraph here that I'm going to read, there's more to it. When we adhere to the light of divine providence, which means that we are in God's hands and our footsteps are being directed. The Torah says that God orchestrates the steps of man. The Torah says, Hakol b'yedei shamayim chutz miyiras shamayim. Everything is in the hands of heaven, every detail, every step, except for how you relate to God, except for your awe and connection to God, your moral choices, the direction in which you propel yourself. Not even how much success you have in that, but what you truly desire. That's yours. That's your free will. Everything else is divine providence in this God movie, moving you from one place to another, body and soul and body, to bring out that essence in the physical world. That is the game. That is the purpose for all creation. So when we adhere to the light of divine providence and are not distracted from the truth that everything is from God and everything is in his hands, when we adhere to that, then no nation or group can have any power over us. Therefore, rejoice in this, as it is the most secure protection that exists. For indeed, all those who are happy and trust in God extend the flow of miracles and wonders upon themselves. We're promised miracles and wonders. As the Torah says, just as when I took you out of Egypt, I will show you wonders. And we are taught that the wonders of this time will be wondrous compared to the wonders of the Exodus, the splitting of the sea and the plagues and the revelation of God. It's going to be way more wondrous, because we're at a much further stage in that revelation of the infinity inside of us, whether it looks like it or not. It's always darkest before the dawn. There's always the most intensity before the birth. This is a paradigm in creation. To squeeze out that deepest depth, it takes a lot of force, but it doesn't have to be negative force. It depends on us. Anyway, last line here. For indeed, all those who are happy and trust in God extend the flow of miracles and wonders on themselves, and God deals with them in a manner that is outside the laws of nature. I think it would be really good for all of us to be outside the laws of nature right now. Definitely, that's what I'm going for. So what do we have so far? Fear is natural, but fear is not meant to take us down. It is meant to bring us in and more of our infinity, of our essence out. Second thing, the more we trust in the divine providence, the more protection we have, the more miracles and wonders are done for us. So I have a lot of opinions, very strong beliefs actually, about what's happening and what's the underlying cause of it. I'm sure most of you are aware of a lot of my opinions, and there was no way that this was an accident. There's no way that it was it's not possible. And I'm not going to go into that right now. But all of this at the bottom line, at the end of the day, sofa davar, everything that happens, no matter whether evil people mean it for evil or not, it's all allowed and directed by God. Now, that's one of the reasons that I get so easily triggered into fear and trauma and theological difficulties, because I've been, for the last 30 plus years, I've been salivating for the revelation of the redemption and trying to work on it, as best I can, not always not always so perfectly, not always even, very well, but consistently over time. And I believe in it, and I believe my soul came down for it. When I was little, I was writing fairy tales at age 6 about, magic that saved the world, and the bad and the good, little person with the goodwill conquered the evil giant. This is my soul, so my soul gets very traumatized. And, it's also human, things that have happened to me on a human level. And that is many of us. But the trauma, again, is only designed to bring out our superpower, our supernatural essence, our God connection. And I'm not excusing trauma. I don't understand how it came to this. And everything in me rebels against it. Everything in me revolts. I can't even describe. But that doesn't get us where we need to go. At the end of the day, we're not in control. And at the end of the day, it's not the ultimate reality. The ultimate reality has not revealed itself yet, because souls come back, over time, many times. And all souls are coming back of decent people forever, to live forever in rectified, supernatural, eternal bodies, because God wants the physical. God wants the physical, an upgraded physical. But that's where we're meant to go. Okay, let me just give me 1 second to check my notes, because I don't want to miss anything. So first of all, this is God's war. My husband keeps saying this to me. It's not our war, it's God's war. Yes, we're the foot soldiers, and we have to fight in accordance with our instructions. And some of those are physical, and some of those are spiritual. Most of those are spiritual, and both have to go together. So physically, I'm going to be working in the next couple days. I really hope that I've been very slow because of all that's going on inside. But I hope to get faster and to get help. I want to come out with some calls to action, even on a physical level, that everybody can participate in, and certainly spiritual. And it is the job of a soldier to carry a gun and to defend his people. And there's so much to say here. I'm just praying for a smooth flow. So there's a halacha, a legal ruling in the Torah, in the Code of Jewish Law, Shin Chavtes, 329, that when you live on a border city and you have neighbors who are hostile, and they come to you and say, we just want to do, business with you. We don't want to do anything. We just want to make a deal with you, whatever. You cannot trust them. This is a halacha. This is from the Torah, straight from Jewish law, Torah law. You have to take up arms, even on Shabbat, when you're not allowed to, to do that, because you have to suspect that they're coming to take the border city. And if they take the border city, the whole land lies open. What just happened? What was allowed to happen? This is just one sign, one symptom of this war against God. Everything is an opposite. Everything is backwards. This is the deepest level of spiritual war against God. And now it's taking place. It's coming to life, in a sense, in the Holy Land, which is the heart of the world. Israel is the homeland of the Jewish people. And all this nonsense about who's a Jew, I don't even want to say, because whatever. This is all, total BS. It's total BS. It's just another distraction. But Israel is also the heart of the world. In the times of the temple, every nation of the world, on Sukkot, the holiday that culminated with Simchat Torah, when this travesty, this obscenity, this horror happened, I'm sure by intention, it was also 50 years and a day since the Yom Kippur War, where they also, by the way, Golda Meir, and this is public record, allowed a first strike and the loss of thousands of lives, just so we wouldn't look bad when we went out to war. History repeats. So we have to understand God's formula for ultimate peace. And ultimate peace means the Jewish nation in their homeland and all the nations of the world. Like the heart has to do its thing, and then all the body, which is far bigger than the heart, can do its thing. And everything is healthy and everything flows. So the nations used to come on Sukkot and give sacrifices, bring offerings to God in the temple, the archetypal 70 nations. And that will happen again on whatever level. I'm personally of the opinion we won't be. The Torah says that death will be swallowed up forever. So whatever that will look like in the future. But Israel is connected to every human being. We're really, at the end of the day, all one soul. At the beginning of the day, we were all one soul, the soul of Adam. Every soul that ever lived is a cell in the cosmic body of Adam. But each of us has our roles. A hand is not a right hand's not a left hand, an eye is not a nose. We're one body, and Israel is the heart. And to be a healthy heart, the Jewish people must be settled in Israel peacefully and safely, like the prophets say. So that's anyone who wants world peace needs to foster that. It just goes together. So the next thing I want to say, I'm going to get into some more direct prophecy first, but I'm just going with the flow here, and then I will look at your questions. It really looks to me, and nobody knows the timing, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen, and our actions, thoughts, the Rambam says, Maimonides says, one good thought. We have to see the world as equally balanced, like a balance scale, a cup scale between good and evil, between exile and redemption, and know that our one good action, our one good word, and even our one good thought can tip the scales altogether for the whole world. So each one of us has to see ourselves as being in the center. What you think matters. What you say matters. That inner complaining that we all do about other people, we have to let it go. It doesn't mean we don't call out true evil. There is true evil, and we must call it out. But it's not in most of us. Most of us are just, doing our best, getting distracted. So much against us. We have to support ourselves and each other. Yes, grow. Yes, get better. Yes, gently help other people get better. But we have to distinguish. And I saw that once I had an answer from the Rebbe that said this exactly, that sometimes it's imperative to stand up against something. But you have to go to the nth degree with all your might, in every way possible, to distinguish between the thing that must be stood against and the person. And the person should be treated with respect and love. That does not include truly evil people. Genocidal murderers need to go. So let's be clear about that. And we have to be clear about who they are. That's something that we have not been necessarily clear about. Okay, and it gets clearer and clearer as we go along if we just open our eyes and start looking. So it looks to many people, and definitely to me, although the timing is not absolutely sure, and certainly the pathway is not sure, that this war is not intended to be limited only to Israel, but is intended to involve the nations of the world. I don't want to speculate on anything, but I'm just going to share that. So there are a lot of forces in play, and pundits and military moves and whatever that could lead to something much bigger. And it's important that we unite together to try to either keep that from happening or at least make it as miraculous and peaceful as possible, obviously in Israel and also outside of Israel. We are one human race, those of us who are actually human, those of us who actually aren't just humanity but have humanity, those are the people I'm talking to. Those are the people that I want to unite with, whatever background you come from. Again, we all started out as one, and we are all ultimately one, even though we play different roles. We have to understand what those roles are as well. So there's a prophecy. I didn't bring it up on my computer. Let me see if I can. I know most of it by heart, but not all of it. So just give me 1 second. If I don't find it right away, I'll just paraphrase because I know most of it. Okay, this is a prophecy that was widely shared by the Lubavitcher Rebbe and discussed in the time of the first Gulf War in 1993, I think it was 1991, whenever the first Gulf War was. So this is called the Yalkut Shimoni, and I'll just read it to you. Rabbi Yitzchak said, the year that Melech HaMashiach, the king, the Messiah, will be revealed, all the nations of the world will be provoking each other. The king of Paras, Persia, which is Iran, will provoke the king of Arabia, and the king of Arabia will go to Edom, which generally means America, the West, to take counsel. And then it says, V'chozer in Hebrew, V'chozer Melech Paras, the king of Persia will return. Now, I was watching this prophecy, as were many of us, from 1991, from the beginning, and expecting it to happen right away. But the way that the prophecy reads, these are 2 periods of time, that there will be a revelation, events having to do with Iran, And then there will be a period of time in between, because it says, V'chozer melech paras, in Hebrew, V'chozer melech paras, the king of Persia will return. And I'm going to read this, and I don't want you guys to be upset by it. I'm going to read it, but then we're going to talk about what we can do to avert. Because before I even read more, I must define the laws of prophecy for you. Prophecy is a very interesting thing, because prophecy is made up of two different aspects. It is what the positive prophecies are: God's vision. God's vision is going to come to fruition. Everything is orchestrated around that, without any doubt. God will orchestrate events to get to that goal. So all positive prophecies will come true. The negative prophecies, completely different animal. What's a negative prophecy? And many have come true. But what is a negative prophecy? What's the point of a negativity at all? The point of negativity, of the negative prophecy especially, is to get us like a map, like a preview of coming attractions. If you do this, then that, but if you do this, then that. There's even a discussion in the Talmud between two sages. One says at the end of days, the Jewish people will do tshuva, they will return, and Mashiach will come, the Redeemer will come. And the other rabbi says, what if they don't do tshuva? Then Mashiach won't come, the Redeemer won't come. And the first rabbi says, if they don't do tshuva, then God will erect a wicked king who will enact harsh decrees, and then they will do tshuva, and then Mashiach will come. So simple formula. We've got to get to where we have to get to. We don't have choice about that. There's a part of me that really wishes we did. It's been a long, hard road, even this life, even these last few years. And did we ever expect more? Maybe some people did. I didn't. I just didn't. And it's a total, I don't even want to go there. But at the end of the day, one of the core principles of wisdom is to know that there's something bigger that's connected with that deeper part of us that does know, to know that there's a long game being played, and that we're players, and that the end is glorious, and that we can facilitate the revelation of the end at any time. That is actually why there are two reasons why it's known in the Torah that there's no date given to the coming of Mashiach. One of the reasons that's given is because, it's been a long time, and if somebody had given a date, that was 2,000 years later, so people would have gotten really discouraged. But the real inner reason is because it's consciousness dependent. It's not separate from us. So you can't give a date, because when are you going to wake up? When are you going to see that there's nothing here but God? Ein od milvado. When are you going to act accordingly? When are you going to get connected with that infinite part of you? And what's it going to take for that to happen? So the past is the past. There's nothing we can do about it other than learn, other than lean into that energy like a contraction to get closer to the end, and to do it with as much as possible unity and peace and calm and wisdom and knowledge. I will be doing my best to share that, what I know of that and what I will learn of that, and to bring maybe other people to do that as well. And I'm not the only one by any means. People are showing up, and I'm sure they're going to show up more and more, and you too. And we're going to be working together, whoever wants. But the point is that we can only start. If we want to have power, we can only start with where we are right now, and with trust and faith that it will all come out all right in the end, and that the moment before this moment is not necessarily going to be the moment after this moment. So just like you don't want to look at videos or pictures, do not look, not one. If you've looked already, I'm going to suggest that you Google pictures of the Lubavitcher Rebbe and look at the Rebbe's face and, ask for some help. But you really can't reverse that. But also, when it comes to prophecy, we need to understand that prophecy is not here as a destiny, only the positive prophecies. The negative prophecies are here as an assist, as an awakening, as a guidepost, as a choice point. So I wanted to say that, and that is so crucially important. If something's bringing you down, it's the wrong thing, and you have to find a way, even though it's normal. I told you I'm like back and forth and triggered into trauma and fear, but we have to know what that's about, and that it's designed to bring us deeper. Okay, so the prophecy, we're talking about the king of Persia, and it says, V'chozer melech paras, that the king of Persia will return, u'machriv es kol ha'olam. And it often this quote is left out when people post this because it's not pretty, but it says he'll destroy the whole world. So I want to tell you right now that does not mean physical destruction. I mean, it could. Not that the world's going away entirely, but, they're negative prophecies that could be really not fun. But every prophecy contains a spiritual potential. When we release the potential, we can let the negativity drop right off. So what does it mean in an inner level? To destroy the world. The word world in Hebrew is olam. It comes from the word helen, which means concealment. So on the positive end, if we do what we need to do and evoke those miracles, so the king of Persia will destroy the concealment of the world, will destroy the lies, will destroy the limitations. But looking at it in the physical level, the nations of the world will be outraged and panicked. They will fall on their faces with pains like pains of labor. The Jews will also be outraged and in a state of panic, and they will ask, where will we come and go? Where will we come and go? Which I've been asking for the last few days. Is one of the reasons why I have not been able to get online, because I'm like, should I stay here? Should I go somewhere else? Where can I go? Okay, that is not the right, it's normal, but it's not aligned. Anyway, but that's predicted, it's prophesied. So it's all part of the picture. Your fear is part of the picture, your confusion is part of the picture, your distraction is part of the picture, your elevation and activation is part of the picture. Anyway, to continue, so God will say to them, my children, do not fear. Who's God's children? Us, the humans of humanity. My children, do not fear. Higia zman gulaschem. The time of your redemption has arrived. And that last redemption will be different from the first, which was followed by further bondage and pain. After this last redemption, you will not experience any further pain or subjugation. There's more to this prophecy. I have been looking into prophecies for quite a while. I'm not the biggest prophetic expert, but we'll be digging into these more. So let me just stop for a second and see if are there any urgent questions? I'm just scrolling here. So good to see so many people on. Please do share with your friends. We need to grow. I'm just scrolling up. I'm not seeing anything urgent, but just want to make sure. Thank you for all the love and blessings back at you. Thank you for the prayers. Okay, so next I want to talk about what the Rebbe said about these times, which is also based on prophecy. There are a lot of prophecies. So my students know, and I've talked about this publicly, but I want everybody to know that in 1963, the Lubavitcher Rebbe gave a talk, a sicha, and it was on the Torah portion of Balak. For those of you not familiar, Balak is the story that was the name of the king of Moab. You know, in the biblical days when the Jews were like between Egypt and Israel, a lot of things happened, a lot of attacks. Oh, good morning, what else is new? There's a spiritual war. The Jews are here to represent the divine mission. We've been doing it very imperfectly, although, I have to say that we've been ultimately traumatized, and I'm enough. But the birth, we have to get to the goal. So let's get to the goal. So Balak, as so many, hated the Jews, wanted to destroy them, reached out to the prophet Balaam in English, to curse the Jews. Balaam said, I can't curse who God has blessed. Long story. Anyway, at the end of the portion, there's a huge sin that is provoked of sexual immorality. I'm not going to get into the whole story, but Balak is as the Rebbe says, Balak, in that time, the Jewish people were standing on the banks of the Jordan River, ready to enter the land of Israel finally. And if not for the sin, that would have been the redemption. You can repeat that last line throughout history. If not for this, it would have been the redemption. If not for that, it would have been the redemption. Why? Because we have to get to what we have to get to. This revelation of our true essence must occur. Our true essence is absolute connection to God. We're in his hands on that one level. It's total surrender. And we are his miraculous soldiers and partners and beloveds on a deeper level. That's also true. Both need to go together. And he will protect us through miracles and wonders. And he is protecting us. And if something happened, we don't understand, we need to come again to the present moment. And what can we do now? Because at the end of the day, it will all be glorious like that. So the Rebbe says, the Rebbe quotes, he talks about how in the time of the Greek occupation and other times there was, sometimes it was forbidden for Jews, again, so many times it was forbidden for Jews to read the Torah, to read the 5 books of Moses. So the sages instituted a parallel reading from the text of the prophets, which wasn't always forbidden, that had some part of the Torah reading in it. So this story of Balak, it comes with a prophecy from the prophet Micha. And the prophet Micha says that there will come a time when Israel is surrounded. He says actually, She'eres Yaakov, the remnants of the children of Jacob, will be surrounded by many nations, to the point where we will not be able to put our trust in man or to depend upon human beings. That's the prophecy. And then the Rebbe says this prophecy is not describing a time in the past, it's describing the time in the future, the messianic redemption. And he asks the question, how is it that in the messianic redemption there's an increase in darkness and actual evil? And the Rebbe uses the word evil. And the Rebbe says straight up, and I could show it to you inside. I don't have the text here with me, but I could show it to you inside. He says straight up that the evil will not only be outside of the Jewish people, within the Jewish people as well. Again, we've been set up, and it's for, at the end of the day, as horrific as it is, we have to see the truth so that we have to see the truth. If we don't see the truth, we cannot take wise action. Seeing the truth is a big part of this, not the only part. Anyway, so the Rebbe asks what, he says this will be a time of increased evil, increased danger, and outside of the Jewish people, inside of the Jewish people. And what is the point of this? How do we call it the first stage of redemption? Because it's actually the first stage of redemption. How do we call it that? What's the point of this? How can we get redeemed by increased darkness? Aren't we asking that? That's what I'm asking myself. That's what traumatizes me the most. God, how do we get redeemed by another Holocaust level event? Fewer people, but for each person and each family, it's the same. So I'm just bringing that question because that's part of it. The answer is it all is catalyzed without excusing it. I want to say that the Rebbe told people you're not allowed to justify the Holocaust, even to justify by saying it was God's will. You're not allowed to. So we don't justify this, but after the fact, we have to know, we have to use it. We have to know that that people whose souls sacrifice themselves, they say that every soul chooses. I don't know. I don't want to go into that right now. But we who are here, we get to choose. We get to choose, and we have to know what our choices are in order to choose. So what is the choice here? The Rebbe asks, does the Geula start with increased darkness and evil? Just like why does birth, start with pressure and contractions? This is a cosmic fractal, cosmic principle. But he says the point is to get us to make a shift that we would otherwise not make. What is that shift? The Rebbe asks, and then he reverses this and goes back to the prophecy of Micah, and he says the shift is exactly what the prophet says. Stop putting your hope in people. Stop relying on man. Stop trusting man. And what does that mean? That doesn't mean that you never go to, a doctor or a friend or that an army doesn't have a job, but that's not where anything comes from. And what the Rebbe says is, then he goes on to say, and that is the shift that we're here to make. And as soon as we make that shift, it's all over, game over. The whole matrix, dissolves and upgrades. But what is that? Then what does the Rebbe say? It doesn't only mean physical man. Because every believer knows we're supposed to trust God, and man acts, God acts through man. And the Rebbe says it refers to the supernal man as well. The supernal man. What's the supernal man? God himself enclosed in the laws of nature, reward and punishment. God being angry and whatever that means. It's called in Kabbalah and Hasidus Mamali Kol Almin. It's the light of God, divine light that fills all worlds, lights and vessels. It's the light of God as it filters through the concealments of physical reality and shows up as the laws of nature and reward and punishment and all of that separation. So that's the supernal man. So the Rebbe said the shift is to get out of that relationship with God. And first, obviously, the first shift is to stop trusting governments who are not your friend. I think it's becoming more and more obvious, I hope. And anybody who still thinks your government is your friend, wake up, because it's not healthy. And the faster we wake up, the less that will have to be shown to us. That's the theory. But even more than that, and much deeper than that, we need to change our relationship with God. And that means to not depend upon God as enclosed in the laws of nature and the hierarchy of reward and punishment and the endless cycle of, we deserve it. Just get out of it and throw yourself into that deep relationship with God with total trust in his divine providence. and look for the love and look for the miracles, like I read to you in those paragraphs that I read earlier on. If you weren't here at the beginning, just back up toward the beginning. I'll be sharing that in other places as well, hopefully. So we need to shift the way that we perceive reality. In the beginning, I invited everybody to look inside and to look for that, to invite the awareness of that part of you that is deeper than all this story. I've shared with some of my students and friends. I was on a plane to the U.S. about 6 or 7 weeks ago, and I used to be there was for many years I haven't been nervous flying at all. That was a big blessing because before that I was. But on this flight, suddenly I started asking myself, like, what's holding us up, and how can it hold us up all the way across the ocean, and what if it doesn't? And so, I am sure many people have had those feelings. I didn't want to have those feelings, and it occurred to me that maybe, which I've been thinking about a lot, maybe this isn't real. Maybe this is a simulation. Maybe this is all like a dream, and the Torah does compare this stage of reality, gullus, exile, to a dream. It says that when we wake up, we will have been like dreamers. And I asked myself, what if this is all happening inside of me? Like what happens in a dream? I don't know what that means, but what happens in a dream is you're the character in the dream. You're experiencing all of these things that you're not consciously creating unless you learn how to lucid dream, which I haven't yet, but it might be a good idea for everybody. But you're inside the dream, like a little part of the dream, and yet the dream is inside of you. So who's dreaming the dream? Something deeper in you. That's not your identity, is dreaming the dream that's inside of you, but you're inside of it. So we want to wake up from the dream. Hasidus, mystical Torah is all full of this. And as soon as I had that thought that maybe, maybe there must be a deeper part of me. Maybe this is all happening inside of me. Immediately the fear went away, like totally immediately. I can't explain that. It's not logical, but what I think is that it's so close to us, this deeper part of ourselves, that all we have to do is call to it, recognize it, let it occur to us, and it can open for us. And it changes everything. All right, so I'm looking at my notes again. Okay, so I've said a lot of what I want to say. I want to direct you also, I'm going to type this in the chat. I want to direct you to a website. Let me just type it first. It's www.thetruthaboutisrael.org. It's .org, not .com, and you have to put the dot in front of it. Otherwise, you might get bad things. But thetruthaboutisrael.org is a website that my husband and I put up in 2006 during the Second Lebanon War. We were in New Jersey, and I wanted to do something, and I researched more of what the Rebbe had to say about Israel and about how we bring peace. And I do want to upgrade the site in the near future, hopefully with God's help and other people's help, or to create something new, because this is very narrow. This is just between the Jews and Israel and Jews and other nations also, but it doesn't address what's happening now. That was 2006. That's almost 20 years ago. But the timeless truths here are absolutely real. So on the front page, and this is also, check this out. This horror happened. This war started. Oh, I have a few thoughts at once. This war started on Simchat Torah, which is when we start the day after, is we start on a Sunday, which is the day when the Torah reading starts. So the whole cycle starts over again. We started reading the whole Torah again. We read the first verse of the Torah the day after this starts. What's the first verse of the Torah? In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. And Rashi, the premier commentator of the Torah, this is all on the website. I'm reading from the website now. What is the reason the Torah begins with creation? Because if the nations of the world say to Israel, you are robbers, because you've conquered with force the lands of the nations of Canaan, you've stolen the lands of the 7 nations, Israel can answer, God created it, he created the world and gave it to whomever was proper in his eyes, and of his own will he gave it to them, and of his own will he took it from them and gave it to us. This is the first commentary on the first verse of the Torah, explaining why God starts the Torah, the blueprint for creation, with, in the beginning of the story, God created the heavens and the earth. God owns, God created, God has his plan. God is making his movie with us. We are the characters and the co-creators. But we co-create by giving it up. I'm seeing that more and more. Just the way it is. So I'm not going to discuss right now why I think it is like this, that God gave the land to the 7 nations and then told us to conquer it. Well, I will say this. the nature of the world. It says right after this, it says the world was tohu vavohu, olam haya tov vo v'choshech al pnei hamayim. The world was null and it was void and chaotic, and darkness was on the face of the earth. So everything starts with darkness. When we go into the days of creation, it was evening and it was morning the first day. All of creation starts with God concealing the divine light. So the darkness is here for us to elevate, just like the fear is here to bring out our deeper essence. That's the nature of the spiritual war. And you see this everywhere. It's a fractal principle of creation. So that's the first verse that we read after when we started the Torah the day after this happened. And it's never been more relevant than now. We are, I want to tell you, we are in, by all signs, Gog and Magog. What is the Gog and Magog? Is the ultimate war, the final war that precedes or is part of the Messianic era. There are many, many, many different explanations and opinions on what it is. Again, prophecy, except for the glorious end, positive prophecies can come out in all kinds of different ways. So all of these opinions are possibilities, and they're all also different levels. Like one level of this war of Gog and Magog, Gog comes from the word Gog, which means a roof, on Sukkot, the holiday that just passed. This last week, we leave our houses and we go, eat, and some people sleep in these flimsy dwellings with branches as the roof. Gog means roof. So what is the war in one aspect of Gog and Magog? It's a letting go of the physicality. Hang on, who is that? Who's that?
It's us.
You can come in, just go by. Anyway, letting go of the physicality of the world, of the feeling of I'm safe because I have a roof over my head. What's happening now here in Israel? What happened to me for several days? Where should I go? Where should I go? Just like the Yalkut Shimoni, the Jews will say, where can I come and go? Where is it safe? I don't know. Is it in the center? Is it Jerusalem? But Jerusalem's in the north, Lebanon's in the, at the end of the day. And as I said, I don't think this is going to be limited to Israel. How could I know for sure? All signs point to that this is, as the Yalkut Shimoni says, Iran is, the king of Iran is prophesied to cause some kind of destruction all over the world. And again, we want to make it a destruction of illusion, not a destruction of, of anything that we cherish. But that's going to take some good miracles. So that's what we need to aim for. But classically, and there are many other, opinions about what Gog and Magog is. There's no nation called Gog. So who is that, person? All kinds of speculations, all kinds of opinions. But the classical core description of what Gog and Magog is, that final war, is very simple. It's Ishmael, the Islamic nations, or some part of them, Esav, the West, some part of them, and the Erev Rav, which is the Egyptians who were converted into the Jewish people. They were literally the sorcerers, pharaohs, advisors who were oppressing the Jewish people. They were in it for the power and the black magic. They followed the Jews out, and Moses ended up bringing them into the Jewish nation, which apparently God warned him against. I can't say I understand why he made that decision, but it seems that he wanted every human being ultimately to be part of the God relationship. But God warned Moshe that if these Egyptians, these oppressors, into the Jewish people, they will cause problem. There will be a fifth column in the people, and they will cause pain and suffering from now until Mashiach comes, till the end of the story. And so the third party in this Gog and Magog war is the Erev Rav. Again, think about the fact that this could not possibly have been an accident. And like I said earlier, Golda Meir in the Yom Kippur War openly admitted that she had decided to allow them to have a first strike to kill a bunch of us so that we could look better when we, defend ourselves. Sick, right? Sick. And it's worse. And it's worse all over the world. And we know that, or if we don't know that, we will know that. The governments and the big players are not our friends. They represent forces that are truly evil in many cases. And I'm not talking about the average person who doesn't agree with me or anyone. We have to be very careful, like I said before, to distinguish, like the Rebbe said, between with ordinary people that don't wish for genocidal, events, and try to foster them. Regular people with all our flaws. Some of us have worked harder on ourselves than others. Some of us had access to better information. Some of us made big mistakes. Some of us know it. Some of us don't know it yet. But we have to have that compassion and that unity for the people and the anger at the position. The Rebbe said this to me explicitly, and he used 3 phrases to bechola efsharis, with every possible, the kasa acharon, to the nth degree, and I forgot the third expression, but like with all your power to make this distinction between the thing that must be stood up against and the person. The person, we have to find every way possible to have compassion for others and compassion for ourselves, and to bring people close and try to educate them. And if there's something they're doing that has to be stood up against, stand up against it. But when you're triggered to hatred and anger, normal and natural, but designed to pull you into your eternal being, that deeper essence of you, which is all compassion. Sometimes compassion is also like, cut off your head if I have to. Whatever. That's a bad metaphor. That's a bad description. But you know what I mean. Compassion always doesn't mean being nice. Sometimes it means being very, firm or even very forceful, like an army. Like I told you, the law is that the army must defend. You must. If I didn't finish that, I said that the army had that you have that the halacha of Shimcha, the 329, the code of you're in a border city, and your neighbors, your hostile neighbors, come in with saying they have friendly intentions. You have to go kill them, because if the border city falls, the whole land is vulnerable. That law abrogated. It's been opposite, giving away the land, making us weaker. No accident. It's not an accident. It's not. I mean, the brainwashed people. Yeah, you could say it's stupidity, ignorance, brainwashing. But those behind it. It's all intentional, and it's all the opposite of what God wants. This is an opposite. This is a war of opposites, a divine war. So God fights this war. We get to decide. We are the foot soldiers. We get to decide which side we're on, and we get to learn how to discern which side. When we make a choice, which side is the side of God and which side is not the side of God. And that's part of the process. And sometimes, to our great pain, it takes wake-up calls. We've had too many of them. We don't need any more of them. So, it's really important to distract from horror, like to keep yourself calm. At the same time, it's really important to stay on edge enough that you're going to be out of your comfort zone ongoingly to get this job done, to win this war. Just checking if there was anything else. So on the website that I was just reading to you from, and feel free to check it out, even though it needs upgrading, there's a lot of cool stuff on it. So the Rebbe says, trust in God and you will have peace. When the Jewish people will trust in God, that the land of Israel belongs unequivocally to them, and are willing to declare this openly to the nations of the world, then no one will contest the matter. You will not need to go to war. In fact, even weapons will prove unnecessary. So yeah, there was more that I wanted to say. And I want to say this really carefully. And if there's something that's not clear, ask me. I will be doing future live streams. There's so many prophecies, a lot I know and a lot probably I don't know, and we need to dig into them, and we need to understand how to move them toward their positive form. Because every prophecy is light, but what is the vessel that it's enclosed in? That we get to upgrade. How much? Let's see. How fast? Let's try. So before I moved to Israel, and when I first moved to Israel, which was in 2012, when we first came on a pilot trip in 2011, I was like so many people. I was, the terror mostly goes in one direction, despite what the news will tell you. And I have to say that I found out much later that the Israeli government allows broadcasts of fake videos of, Israeli soldiers torturing. Like there's so much, we call it Pallywood. There's so much lies and so much psyoping that is allowed or even fostered by the top. It's really, really bad. But at the end of the day, so I started out feeling like it total black and white. But when I came here, and especially, and I'm not saying it's equal. It's not. Like you drive through Israel and you'll see red signs at the beginning of certain roads that say this is Palestinian territory given away to the PLO, whose charter is based on the total destruction of the Jewish people and send them into the sea. So the government in the Oslo Accords in 1993 made a deal with them. I don't want to go into that, but the Rebbe said that they were almost destroyed. They were in Damascus, and Reagan left the U.S. just to give a carte blanche to the Israeli government to destroy them, and instead they brought them back, armed them, built them up. As I said, it's bad, but it's all divine providence after the fact. We're before the fact, and before the fact we have choice. After the fact we have acceptance. We have wisdom. So anyway, I forgot what it was. Oh, so in Israel, you drive by, and a lot of land, heartland, Israel's tiny. A lot of the land was given away to the PLO. I'm not even talking about Israeli Arabs, many of whom are good citizens and whatever, but literally this terrorist group that only formed as a terrorist group in their terrorist charters to destroy us all. So our government gave away a lot of the land of Israel, weakening the borders. And when you pass these red signs, you can say this is Palestinian territory. It is danger to life for Israeli citizens to go there. But is it danger to life for people to walk around our streets or our markets? There are no signs going in the other direction. I'm going to leave it at that. There's definitely not an equality in this issue. However, I do believe, and I do see more and more, that the hatreds are fostered not by the average person. Yes, there's some really bad people who are not necessarily in government, but most people are not really bad people. Most people are brainwashed people that come from certain cultures. We all come from a culture. Certain cultures are more violent than others. Certain, religions are more violent than others. It's not okay. It's not okay. But we have to distinguish between the average human being who, if given a chance, half a chance, would want to live peacefully, and the evil human beings who don't want us to live peacefully. And when I hear, we will burn them to the ground, they're animals, but yes, Hamas needs to be burned to the ground. Anybody who collaborates with them, funds them, including perhaps our own, dressed up as our own, some of our leadership needs to be demolished, needs to be. But there's so many stories of people living in Gaza who don't support these things, who are also tortured and murdered and dragged through the streets. So when the government says we're going to turn off the water, I just want to say, I want to encourage people not to say rah rah. You have to stand against evil, and there's clear evil here. It's not equal. It's not about not taking sides, but you have to know who the enemy is. You have to be clear about who you are. And all decent people, my prayers for all decent people who, if given half a chance, would want to foster peace and goodness for other people, or at least would not want to do the opposite. All of them should be treated with, if possible, if safe, and not always is it, but at least in our hearts, at least in our wishes, at least in our vision, one humanity living in peace together. That's God's vision. So I know that's going to happen. And we have to be very, 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 very careful and wise to be able to distinguish what's a psyop, what's designed to get us ramped up into blind hatred, and what is a true concern and a mission to meet evil with might. And yes, collateral damage, it's real. And it's necessary sometimes in war, and I do not at all personally approve of the policy of, warning people. Like, it goes to such an extreme degree that you're not allowed to sacrifice your own people because you might be risking accidentally killing somebody from the enemy. So the Israeli army is the most moral army in the world, without a doubt, but it's overboard. It's against the laws of the Torah. So I'm just saying this because I want people to understand. We have to be wise and discerning. We have to be wise and discerning. We have to learn, we have to open our eyes, we have to support each other, and we have to have the vision of all good people serving God, loving God, supporting each other in a glorious, beautiful world. What it takes to get there, if somebody's coming to attack you, if you can kill him, you got to kill him. That's the law. But you don't have to hate everybody who looks like them and everybody who doesn't know enough to know that they're being lied to. And I say this even to fellow influencers. We need to find that place in us where we can understand people, even as we come out more strongly about issues that are wrong and even evil. Okay, so I've been going on for an hour. I'm going to look at questions. Hopefully this is far from the last broadcast. Hopefully we'll see the miracles and wonders really quickly. And I want to, before I say anything else, I want to direct you to beneath the video is a link to a video from beneath this live stream is a link to a video about the Rebbe, about the first Gulf War. I encourage everybody to watch that jet flying by. It's actually been very quiet here for the last day. There were constant jets and a lot of booms some of the time. Okay. So watch that video. It will give you so much strength, so much hope, so much clarity. And there are many others. The Rebbe was in every war in Israel. But you'll see for yourself. You must watch this video. It's in the link again under my live stream, a video of the Rebbe on the Gulf War, the first Gulf War. I'll just tell you in short, there were all kinds of people of all kinds of ages, young, very elderly, coming to the Rebbe when Saddam was threatening to burn down all of Israel, and he had the Scud missiles to do it, and probably the covert cooperation also. And people would come to the Rebbe and say, and this happened in every war, should we bring our kids home from school in Israel? We're planning to go for a wedding, should we cancel it? I'm planning to move, should I not? In every case, the Rebbe said, absolutely not. And he said, you'll see it for yourself. He says clearly that if you live in Israel, you must not leave. Again, every situation is personal, but that is actually the halacha, unless I don't even want to say that because I have too much compassion. I was thinking about leaving myself, but then I saw the video is very strengthening. But he said, if you're planning to go and people know, you must go. And God will protect you. And somebody said to him, somebody is, I forgot who was in Bnei Brak, and there are missiles there. Should he leave? And the Rebbe said, absolutely not. He should go, and he said God will protect him. And in fact, there were wonders. I'll talk about it in the future, maybe. The wonders you can look it up, the Gulf War, so many miracles, 39 scuds. And the only single casualty was somebody who got a heart attack trying to put on a gas mask that he didn't need. 39 scuds hitting apartment buildings and demolishing them, people walking out, like not real, unreal. And in the 6-day war, people were likewise afraid, and they published in all the Israeli papers, the Lubavitcher Rebbe says, the guardian of Israel does not slumber or sleep, no one should leave, there will be miracles. Likewise in 73, even though 73 was more of a travesty like this, because consciously the leadership decided to take a first strike. In this case, maybe worse. So, but nevertheless, we've got to root out the evil from within us. That's our job. That's not God's job. He will help us. Our intention is our job. We're God's foot soldiers. It's God's war. But we have to see clearly, and we have to trust, and we have to know that you watch the video, you'll see how many times the Rebbe says Israel is the safest place in the world. So Israel, when you're connected to Israel, when you're connected to the mission, whether you're Jewish or not, whether you live here or not, you can connect directly to your deeper self, to God, to the Torah, to the mission, to the truth, to the prophecies, and we'll be coming out with a lot more things that you can do. But right now, the call for action today is to watch that video, to share this video with your friends, to really share, and to work to bring out that deeper self and to talk to God. If you're afraid, talk to God, ask for help with faith and trust, and ask for the miracles, and they will come. Okay, I'm going to just look and see if there are any questions. Okay. Because of the darkness afoot, the mind of flesh creatures is collectively coalescing to a mutation susceptibility point for a much needed truth of God update. I don't know. Yeah, I guess I'm reading scary things about America and the world also. I don't know. I don't know. What I do know is that the Torah says, God said to Abraham, those who you bless will be blessed. Those who bless you will be blessed. It is time to take sides, not like political sides. There are no politicians that deserve our support. Not that I know of. Well, none here anyway. None who are currently overtly in power that I'm aware of. Maybe there are a few exceptions. Probably there are a few exceptions, but that's not what I'm talking about. We have to take sides between good and evil, between God's perspective and the Sitra Achra, the other side, the snake perspective, and it's very deceptive, very difficult. Who wants to believe that after all of the 2,000 years of exile and the persecutions and the Holocaust that we have Erev Rav government? But you know what? Those sorcerers, the energy of those who were converted in from the oppressors in Egypt, the Zohar says that we will be ruled by the Erev Rav at this time. So none of this is just speculation. If you know the Torah, you can see clearly. Okay. The earth is meant to become a garden far more beautiful than the Garden of Eden. It's a birth process. What should our relationship with God look like? Can I elaborate on it a little? Yeah, I'd actually like to elaborate on it a lot, but I think that will be in a future video. Because it's getting dark here and I have some things I have to do. Our relationship with God, as of right now, I want to say our relationship with God is dual. It's a paradox. All deep truth is at the point of paradox. So this is the struggle for me, that I've come to a place. I started out in a place of not believing in God. I had a personal story. If you want to read it, you can look it up. You can Google my name, Shipra Hendry, and the tapestry. That's the name of it, and you'll get that story. I had a intensely spiritual experience that made me know that there was a God, and it was utter divine providence. And that's what brought me as a heavily agnostic to turn around and become observant very quickly. It was a hard process, but that happened. But I was fear-based, and I definitely did not feel close to God. I had a lot of anger, especially as traumas happened. And I worked really, really, really hard to get to a place of trust that God wants a different relationship now, because we're in the future. We are in times of redemption. So history doesn't have to repeat. Even if it looks the same, that is because we are still stuck in our old paradigm. So the first thing is, it's imperative to understand that the past doesn't equal the future, even if it looks like it does. And we want to stop dragging the past into the future. So it takes very deep work to be traumatized and come to trust that's not based on evidence. It's just a commitment and a decision. So talk to God intimately and share your feelings and accept yourself with compassion. Feel your feelings in your body with love, and assume that God does it too. So this is a relationship like any relationship that's kind of broken. It takes work, but it should be intimate and loving. And at the same time, and this is what's been most challenging for me after having spent years and years doing that, and and feeling it and seeing the results, to see such atrocities or to hear about them, it breaks me. I mean, it breaks many of us, but if you've established that new relationship of trust, it's a very, very deep break. So the other half of that paradox is to understand that we can't understand. And that whatever has happened in a moment, we want to learn from it. We need to see where the mistakes were. There's a certain amount of wisdom and open eyes and transformation that and rewiring and reorganization and rethinking, etc., and new actions and awakeness that must happen. And on very non-trivial level. Nobody here for 1 minute is forgetting this situation. Even if we try to distract ourselves sometimes, nobody is unaware. That's an unpleasant type of awakeness. But there are many people, I didn't say this, but maybe you already realize it. The people of Israel are lions. Like, I'm looking at myself being afraid, and I'm seeing people running around to the front lines making sandwiches. There's a lot that's needed, even donation wise, which I will be giving. I'm choosing 5 really, really good funds that will help the soldiers and will help the people, and I'm going to be sharing them with everybody. I hope I could do that by tomorrow. There's so many, but I want to choose a few that are most important. But there's a certain aspect of letting go and surrendering and knowing that is far beyond us. What helps that is to connect with that deeper self that is unconditional, that is eternal, that is way beyond this, that is the dreamer of the dream and not stuck in the dream. It's a God part. It's connected at least to the core of the soul. So to be able to surrender, that's the harder part for me now that I've finally reached, oh, God's kind to me, and God is kind to me in so many ways. And so I've had many miracles. and so shall we all. So that paradox of like relaxed intimacy and relaxed trust, and yet if something has happened, to be able to process it as this is, I can't answer questions, I can't justify, but I must be willing and able to move deeper in. It's not easy. It's a really big challenge, but I hope that answers the question. That's what our relationship with God should look like. And we need to learn Torah. Torah is for every human being. It's the blueprint for creation. We need to learn wisdom, and we need the actions that we'll need to take. But let's start with this for today: our deeper self, discerning the truth, connecting with others, getting beyond the walls of hatred, and still being totally ready to stand up to discern truth and stand up for truth forthrightly. Don't fool ourselves. We got to see the snake to cut off its head. We do, but we're not the snake. It's just got a grip on us. It's a virus. That's the real virus. So see the virus. Okay, the snake is the snake, and the snake has to be decapitated. That's what has to be. Though I hate whatever. But most people are not the snake. They might be co-opted by the snake. So we got to get rid of the snake within them and starting within ourselves. But understand that human beings have been suppressed, brainwashed, tortured, fooled, confused, psyoped, oppressed, persecuted, terrified, horrified from day one, literally day one. So that's got to unwind, and we have to be very compassionate with ourselves and each other, and also to assume that God is very compassionate to us, and that even when things are incomprehensible, and I pray that we will see the divine protection, like in the Gulf War, not like in the Yom Kippur War, and not like in the, it's awful, it's beyond, everybody knows it. But to be able to still choose out of the core of our soul to the belief and the trust that it's the minimum, that God chose the minimum that was needed to get us to the birth. Because at the birth, everything's going to be good for everybody. Everybody's coming back. All bodies are going to be upgraded, and we will be in a garden that we helped to till forever. And it's way more deep than that, because we will be in a love affair with God. So the goal is to get there without leaving the body. That's what we're aiming for. But we can't allow ourselves to be triggered. Yeah, who could not be? But we cannot allow ourselves to stay in the trigger. We have to be able to move forward, even though there are things that we can't encompass and can't tolerate and can't. But what allowed them to happen? Certain things God leaves to us, although it's all Him, but certain things He leaves to us to discern and to take action on. And that's what we need to do now. Okay. Yeah, the walls of Jericho. God has to let the nations fall utterly first. Well, yeah, but does it have to be a physical devastation, or can it be a spiritual, complete deconstruction of all of this stuff that's ruled us? That's the area that we have some free choice in, maybe a lot. Ishmael will fight with Edomites. Oh, you know what? It is true that the major prophecy about the war with Persia is between America and Persia, Iran. But I have reason to hope that, that will, like, I believe that many prophecies have been seriously mitigated, but obviously not mitigated enough. We got to ramp it up. Okay. Thank you. Ben-Gvir for Prime Minister. Ben-Gvir talks a good talk, but I don't think he's fulfilled his promise, and I don't think any prime minister is going to get us out of this. I think it's just they just keep replacing themselves with the next one. Even, the strongest, Arik Sharon, the strongest, uprooted good people, their homes and families and greenhouses from Gaza with force, with brutal force. The hero of Israel, and gave the land to terrorists who now slaughtered over 1,000. They say we don't know the numbers yet. So it's not a prime minister that is going to save us, and that's imperative to know. The hearts of kings and rulers are in the hands of God. Somebody replaces the person before them. Prime minister is just a sum total of it's a point of revelation and representation of our collective consciousness. That's what needs to change. It's between us and God now. That's it. Okay, you can look up Golda Meir. She was the prime minister then, about the Yom Kippur War, and she explains in at least one video that I saw, maybe more, maybe in a book. I don't remember, all the places where I saw this, but that they knew that they had information that this would happen. Egypt is saying straight up, it's in the mainstream news, that they warned Netanyahu over and over that this was going to happen, that he knew it. I heard that the U.S. also knew it, and they let it happen. At very minimum. So Golda Meir, who I think was more honest, but because the world is, Israel feels like we have to please the nations. We're living on sufferance of the nations, the governments. So we get threats from the nations, and we don't do what the Torah says and what the Rebbe says and say, sorry, God gave us this land and we're answerable to God. And, like the spies in the Torah, they were afraid of the giants. And that's why it was another major, major breakdown that caused suffering for thousands of years. It's our job to connect directly with God and his promises and to live them and to deal with our fears. And when we deal with our fears, I can't tell you how many watch videos of people, the soldiers, the bravery, the courage, the trust, the joy that the people are expressing, even while they're afraid. When you express joy and when you give others strength, you're not afraid at that time. Another big secret. So that deeper part of us has got to come through. It flows through when you give it to other people. It flows through you and becomes more integrated in you. So Golda Meir, because of that, they had information that there was going to be a strike, and she allowed that strike to happen instead of defending against it, so that we would have sympathy from America or whoever. And Israel was almost lost. So that's what happened then. Oh, I think there's a siren. David! I'm going to have to, I guess, go into a safe room. I'm going to say bye for now. Bye.